Hey everyone, I'm back to talk about Through the Ages. In this video, I will discuss a concept that I think is one of the keys to playing the game well. So take this video for what it's worth. If you're an experienced player, you probably won't learn anything, but I still hope you enjoy it. If you're more of a beginner or an advanced beginner, someone who already knows the rules and grasps some of the fundamentals of turn-to-turn play, but are looking to improve the quality of some of your moves, this video could serve as a guide, or at least food for thought, that will help you make some good, sound decisions and put you into contention to win, and just do well in the long run. So let's get started. For just a second, forget what you know about Through the Ages and let me try to explain it to you in a different way, that'll maybe help you think about what you should be trying to achieve in this game. One way to think about Through the Ages is as a competition to see who can achieve the most effective growth. So not a point scoring race, not a civ builder or a war game or anything like that. At its core, it's a competition to see who can achieve the most effective growth. If you improve your civilization in the right areas along the way, it will lead to you naturally achieving the best score possible in the end. That's what I'm getting at. So what are the right areas to focus on? At some point in the game, you're going to have to improve a bunch of things. You have to improve your strength, the resource production, science production, food production, civil actions, military actions, culture production, and happy faces. Those are 8 areas, 8 core improvements you're going to have to make that are vital to playing the game well. And what you're doing in Through the Ages is deciding the order that you're going to improve these things from turn to turn. That's kind of what the game is. It's what it's about. So if you're able to improve all of these areas by, let's say, the end of Age 2, you're going to have a balanced civilization, and that could put you in good shape to enter Age 3 with a chance to win. And that's really the concept that I want to explore in this video, balanced growth. I think of all the strategies available to you in Through the Ages, they could kind of be broken down into 2 categories. I'm going to call them balanced growth and leveraged growth. So what I'm going to do is talk about balanced growth in this video, and then hopefully put out another video in the not too distant future that deals with leveraged growth. This is going to be about balanced growth only. So in Through the Ages, I think a good strategy to shoot for in most games is to balance your growth, at least in 3 and 4 player games. I don't really do 2-player that much, and those strategies can be a lot different. They can be a little more greedy, and certain circumstances call for that. But as a general rule of thumb, in 3 and 4 player games, you want to improve an area of your civilization that you are deficient in before improving an area that you are proficient in. You want to shore up your weaknesses before you enhance something that you are already doing well in. That's what I mean by balanced growth. For example, even if you're a beginner, you probably know that if you went for alchemies in Age 1, you don't really need to go for scientific methods in Age 2. If you went for the alchemies in Age 1 but you skipped iron, then in Age 2, if you're given the choice between coal and scientific method, you're going to want to go for coal almost every single time. Why is that? It's because your growth in a single area, how do I put this? There's just less that you can do with it if it isn't accompanied by growth in other areas. You already increased your science production, so now you will want to increase your resource production to go along with that science production. And you're going to want to increase your food production to keep up too. You're going to want to increase or improve all aspects of your economy and your production, but you really don't need the extra science if you already improved science. Just for food for thought, consider what would happen if you just increased your science production and nothing else throughout the game. In that case, you would be able to research lots of technologies, an amazing amount of urban buildings and military unit technologies, but you won't have the population or the resources to put workers on them. So those cards you research, other than the blue techs and the governments, they'll essentially be useless. You're not going to be able to do anything with those military units and those urban buildings. So that doesn't really sound like a winning strategy. So that's just like an extreme example there, but hopefully it illustrates the problem with just improving single areas of your economy. To give a more concrete example, consider the card journalism. All right, I don't have it pulled up here, but I think it's a good one to consider. If you build a journalism in middle of age 2 or late age 2, that's a good card. It could put you in good shape to improve or have a chance to win in the end game. It's kind of a luxury urban building, but consider all of the aspects of growth that go into that. It requires 6 science, 8 resources, and enough food, happy faces, and military strength, and maybe something else I'm not thinking of, to support a population going into that kind of urban building. Not to mention the civil actions it took to take from the card row and research it. So it's a good winning move if you can pull it off, but you're going to need infrastructure already in place to support that. You're going to need that economic growth ahead of time, and you're going to need that sufficient strength to protect the urban building you're about to build. There has to be a foundation or an infrastructure that's already established to support that. I think the word bottleneck is perfect to describe this phenomenon in the game. Balanced growth is all about avoiding the bottleneck. If you are lagging behind in one area of growth, that can kind of stifle your overall progress. So until you fix it, you might be stuck not really maximizing your potential. So long story short, try to improve all areas of your economy while remaining competitive in strength. Don't worry about culture too much in age 1 and age 2, but also be mindful that producing some culture does help you stay within striking distance of your opponents. And if you weren't able to improve something in age 1, it's not a problem. Just look to improve it in age 2. Try to balance out your growth in that respect. Okay, I think what I'm going to do now is take a look at a few examples, and we'll wrap up in a little while. Now, this should be an easy one. It's turn number 11 in this game. As you can see, I have upgraded resource production, upgraded science, and on this turn, I'm going to take the strength lead by finishing the railroad. So I'm going to research architecture, finish the railroad, take the breakthrough, and I'm going to have 1 civil action left. So let's get to that point in the game. Okay, immigration's revealed. Yep, so there's the architecture. Finish the railroad. Yep, take the breakthrough. Now I have 1 civil action left. For purposes of this example, this is all about balanced growth. I'm just going to say that I don't want the cavalrymen. I have knights already, and I decided I don't want to take the cavalrymen. What I'm going to narrow it down to, I don't want Bach. Let's say I'm going to say I don't want Bach. So I'm going to narrow it down to a choice between taking scientific method and researching selective breeding. Now, this isn't the greatest example because I don't have sufficient civil actions to take the scientific method. I don't think, but just pretend that I do. I can't. It's tough to find. It's a lot of work to go back through all of these games and try to find a situation that illustrates each concept that you want to. So I didn't have time to go through and find a perfect example. But let's just say that I can take the scientific method if I want, or I could research selective breeding. So I'm in shape to get that going next turn. Which of those options is consistent with balanced growth? And as you might have guessed, it's researching the selective breeding. We're going to want to go for food upgrades next turn, and if possible. We do have some population laying around, but long term, I'm going to need more population. I'm going to need to get into food production. Scientific method's not efficient here. You already have alchemies. You just have to spend 6 science to be able to upgrade those to produce 1 science more each turn. There are edge cases where maybe you want to prepare for Bill Gates or something like that, where you just want to have it in hand. But that's only really if you have a spare CA, and 5 is not a lot for this part of the game. It's okay, but it's a better bet to look for early computers, or maybe even just build a 3rd alchemy if you get food production going, or a different type of urban building like journalism. But yeah, I have to admit, this isn't the best example. What I really wanted is to have the 2 cards be side by side in the 1 CA slot and to have 1 CA left. But I couldn't go through that many games and find that particular example. So you're just going to have to, this makes it even easier, more obvious that, yeah, we need food. We don't really need more science yet. We will soon, but the way to get that is not going for the scientific method. All right, let's move on to a less straightforward example, but one that I think is still pretty clear when you think about it. Okay, so take a look at my board here on turn 7 of a 3-player game. One thing I definitely want to do is get my 5th civil action going by researching Code of Laws. The other thing I want to do is improve my strength, so I'm not the weakest. When this event deck is going to come around another 2 turns, or another couple of politics phases for my opponents. So I don't want to be the weakest. That'll be easy enough. I'm just going to build a warrior and reveal the Legion tactic. Now notice I have good resource production and okay science production for this part of the game. There isn't really a way to improve science this turn. I will need to focus on food production at some point. But also with the age ending, I'm going to need a happy face solution soon too. So what should I focus on in this turn that's consistent with a balanced growth philosophy? I think going for a food solution here is too inefficient. 2 civil actions for irrigation is kind of a big price at the end of the age. And one thing to consider is I'm unlikely to be shut out of a food solution. There is an ocean liner in this game. So there's 2 copies of selective breeding and an ocean liner. So it's a pretty good chance that I'm going to get one of them with 3 players in the game. Also, I have these Hippocrates tokens stored up. So even if I get my food production going a little bit on the late side, I should be okay. I'll have those extra yellow tokens to work with. Addressing the happiness crunch here, I think, is the more immediate concern. That's more likely to bottleneck my growth in the short term. Now, I could go for bread and circus. Let's see. I don't think there's a Pierre de Coubertin in the game. No Pierre and no Darwin. So that makes arenas a little less attractive. I think the play is going for St. Peter's Basilica. I think that's a better solution in this spot. In general, if you have high resource production compared to available population, investing into a wonder makes sense, right? That's still balanced growth. I don't have to hyper focus on food right now. Building this wonder is going to make me flexible too. I can use it to save science because I'm not really forced to research any happiness technologies. Religions will be adequate for a long time. Or I can use it for its culture potential. In other words, I can use it to build operas and have that be my happiness solution while producing a lot of culture along the way. So the Basilica is going to solve my needs for what a balanced growth approach is for this turn. It's going to set me up for a few different long-term game plans, actually. It's going to keep me flexible, and it's also going to just be the efficient play in this spot. So let me just play out this turn. All right, get hit with Raiders. I don't think that changes much. I researched the Code of Laws, and I do go for the Basilica. Pop to get out of corruption and build a stage. Yep. And then I think I'm going to reveal the Legion here. Yeah, so I'm not the weakest. Yeah, so just noting that there's no Pierre in this game, I think that made the decision to pass on Bread and Circus a little easier and just go for this this Wonder, so I have a place to sink my extra rocks into. So yeah, that's that for this example. You can go for the Wonder play here without worrying about food right away, especially when there's an Ocean Liner in the game and you're going to be finishing the Wonder next turn. Now I'm going to do one more example, and I'm just going to preface it right now. The last example, it kind of brings up the fun part of this approach to the game, and that's that you really don't have to treat the concept of balanced growth as dogma, even if you're still following it. It's not this rigid requirement. It's more of a moving target that you can change with each turn of the card row, how you're going to approach it. Right? If your economy is only lagging in one area, then strength in other areas can actually help you overcome that deficiency in the right circumstances. So that's something you're going to keep in mind too when you're playing a balanced growth strategy. For example, let's say that you're producing a lot of science, but you have not been able to upgrade your resource production. An excess of science can allow you to deal with that. You can research architecture, which can save you resources, building urban buildings. It can give you a lot of civil actions through governments and blue techs that you can afford to research. And that'll give you some flexibility to take yellow cards that can provide those resources for you. So there are workarounds to balanced growth that are built into the game. And the best players are going to tap into these strategies constantly because it gives them the opportunity to play more efficiently. They don't have to wait and lose tempo just to stay flexible and balanced. They can find creative solutions. And maybe I'll talk more about efficiency versus flexibility in a future video. That's too broad of a subject to cover here. Or you can watch one of Weidenbaum's videos, of course, because he encounters these situations in almost every game and really explains his thought process thoroughly on whether he's going to go for the efficient play at the risk of missing out on something important or play it safe in this circumstance. So, but yeah, maybe we'll talk about that in the future. But first, let's take a look at one more turn that I just kind of introduced. It's a turn where like a workaround solution may appear to deviate from the balanced growth philosophy, but it actually just turns out to be a higher tempo alternative that still fits within that balanced growth framework. Okay, take a look at this board state. I have coal with railroad. Okay, I'm producing 6 science, and my food production is stalled at 0. It's the first turn of age 3. Now, there is a military threat looming. Oprah has strategy, and he's building cavalry units without having revealed the tactic yet. And then for Toad Silence, this Air Force was the first card off of the age 3 deck, and he snagged it. So he's holding that early Air Force, but it's not something that I think. He does have 12 science, but he's on a mobile artillery, so he has the age 2 Rev idea. So he's not going to be able to get into this mobile artillery tactic and Air Force next turn unless there's a science giving card revealed. So you're gonna take my word for it. It's a looming threat, but it's not something that I have to address this turn. So it might appear that going for selective breeding is the balanced growth play here, because my food production is stalled and everything else is upgraded. But I'm actually going to opt to go for computers here instead. There are 3 computer leaders in the game, I believe. Sid Meier, Steve Jobs, and Albert Einstein. And there's a space flight. And one of these leaders is on the row already, Sid Meier. So I'm going to opt to go for computers. I wouldn't call my science for the game adequate yet. It's kind of artificially high right now because Nobel is my leader. But when I replace Nobel, it's going to go back down to 4 per turn, and I'm going to be giving my opponents a better situation than if I replace him early, because they're going to be able to take advantage, or they're going to be more likely to take advantage of the Nobel Prize than I am. So if I'm going to get rid of Nobel early, I'm going to want to increase my science production. That's probably the play I'm going to go for this turn. Sometimes balanced growth is about balancing out where you're going to be rather than where you are right now. You might want to think a few turns ahead. So in this case, if you look immediately, I need food. But if you think 1 or 2 turns ahead, I think going for computers is actually the balanced play. Even if it appears like the selective breeding is going to make more sense. And I'll explain a little more about that in a second, about some things you might not be aware of in this game. But I'm going to let the turn play out just to see what happens. Okay, so we do get more science here, but go for the computers, research them, upgrade, take the navigation, build a knight, and take the team sports. Okay. Few things to consider with this line. The population situation is actually not as dire as it seems. I'm going to go for those mobile artilleries that I just showed you that were just revealed. So these warriors can be disbanded for population if absolutely needed. Also, there's 2 colonies in the deck. That's the thing that you can't tell by me jumping around. But there's 2 colonies, the vast territory, age 2, and the historic territory, age 2. If I can win the vast territory especially, I'll be in very good shape population-wise. And there's a good chance that I will. You can see that I have navigation in hand now and 3 defense cards. And I also have prosperity in hand. Did I get rid of the prosperity? What just happened? Hold on a second. Okay, yeah, I just watched it through again. I did discard the prosperity, so I don't know. I took a glance at that at the beginning of the turn. Unfortunately, that makes a complicated example even more complicated. Forget the prosperity, but still, I think delaying the selective breeding is fine here. I would still call this a balanced growth approach because I'm planning on winning that colony. And the other thing to consider is mechanized agriculture could be revealed pretty early, and that will make for an attractive option. I can go for that even though I have the selective breeding in hand. I can go for that if I feel it's a better option there. So, yep, my population should be fine. I can disband these warriors. One last thing that I'll say about the balanced growth approach is to be mindful of the leader and wonder mix. Just pull it up as a random example. That's kind of a free way to balance your growth. That's one way to think about them. You have an opportunity to take whatever leader, at no cost, is going to balance out your growth and prevent you from bottlenecking. I won't go into all the many examples, but just to give a few off the top of my head, I think of Maria Theresa. Every time I think of a situation where you have a lot of food production, a lot of yellow tokens, but low science, and you need to build military units, Maria Theresa is perfect in that scenario. you're in good shape with her. But let's say I don't know what a different example is. You need science, take Nobel. I think you get the idea. That's one way to view the leader and wonder mix. Okay, guys, I think that about wraps it up for balanced growth. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the concept. I did try to provide an easy example, a mid-tier example, and then a very complicated one at the end, and it got more complicated than I wanted to because I noticed that prosperity and thought it would be a good card for this situation, but I decided to hold on to the colony. But, long story short, when in doubt, especially in age 1 and age 2, let the balanced growth strategy be your rule of thumb. But there are other opportunities out there to make good winning moves that deviate from this strategy. I'm choosing to put those other strategies into a category that I'm calling leveraged growth, and I will try to tackle that in a future video. We'll see how this video turns out first, but for now, it's a good rule of thumb. Balance your growth early in the game, and then in age 3, try to optimize scoring opportunities. All right, for now, just nice chatting with you, sort of, through this YouTube prism. Enjoy playing through the ages, join some tournaments, take a look at that tournament tab on the CGE website, and find one that sounds good for you. I hope you enjoy the game. I look forward to maybe playing with you one day. And that'll do. All right, take care. Bye.